everyone, and welcome to this edition of the Michael Voris Show. I'm your host, Michael Voris. I want to remind you that we have premium subscriptions here at Church Militant, and we would really like you to sign up. Just $10 a month. Not only in the coming weeks and months will you be able to see the whole episode of these new shows that we've rolled out with Christine's Forward Boldly and Simon's Hardline and my Michael Voris Show. Not only will you be able to see all those, but we've got thousands of hours of content that all the premium subscribers get. Most of it's theological, some fantastic history, all of that. So please, if you are not yet a premium member, please become one. Again, just $10 a month. Today, I want to talk about the mind of God. The mind of God. And this is one of those kind of blow your mind type things when you start thinking about it. When you consider the mind of God is infinite. Now, we have no experience of the infinite. We every now and then, we may stand there looking up at the night sky and just see all that black in between all those stars. But even looking at that and knowing, wow, that just stretches on forever. It's not like somewhere out there's a brick wall and you just have to hop in some spaceship and go 900 million years and you smash into the brick wall. It goes on continually. We don't know where that ends. We don't know if it ends. So that's about the only experience we really have of the infinite. We can look at numbers and they just say, no matter what. My brother and I used to do this thing all the time. He used to drive my parents nuts. We'd get in this like back and forth and he'd say, I'd say, I hate you like 1 million times. And he'd say, and I hate you 1 million times plus one. So numbers are another great thing. But again, there just comes a thing where you can't picture it. It's just too big because our minds are finite. They have a limit on even what they can grasp. Intellectually grasp infinity, zero experience of it. Not so with the mind of God. God's mind not only can encompass all of actual history, everything from the moment he created the angelic realm until this very moment right here and all of the future and the world done and, the end of the world and those who are saved and those who are in hell and how that goes on. God has all of that in one thought in his mind. But he also has, at the exact same time, all the possible worlds that could have been but are not. So if somebody, for example, let's say somebody dies and at their own hand, and God knows what would have happened had that person lived. We can ask the question here, well, God's the author of life and death. That person wouldn't have lived or wouldn't have died unless God wanted them to or allowed them to. Well, that's true. God's the author of life and death. He is the one who brings life into existence, and he's the one that allows, at least on the human level, life to pass out of existence and move into the eternal realm. But God's mind will allow for the possibility of the person doing what they, however they kill themselves. He allows for that to happen passively, but knows what would have happened had the person changed his or her mind. So let me share an example with you from a very personal standpoint. I'd shared a few episodes ago that my mother, God rest her soul, had very, very, very horrible emotional problems owing to a rape by her father-in-law when she was 20. It really, really messed her up for the rest of her life. And that happened when she was 20. She died when she was 70. This was a half century of really great emotional pain. She told me years after the fact that when I was in high school, she had a handful of pills in her hand, sleeping pills, more than enough to have killed her. And she was having that stress. She didn't want to live. She just didn't want to deal with the pain of the depression and the obsessive compulsive disorder. And she picked up the phone. She tells me she's not really quite sure why she picked up the phone, like what prompted her. I told her I thought it was her guardian angel. she said she had no reason to disagree with that. She picked up the phone and she dialed, back in the day, you used to be able to dial 411 and you'd get information. And she just said, I'd like a Catholic parish in Sacramento. We were living in Napa Valley at the time. And so the Catholic parish in Sacramento, you could pay, I don't know, 10 cents or a dollar, whatever it was, and they'd put you through. So she did. A priest picked up the phone. All of this happened in the space of just, 15 seconds. She picked up the phone. She's like, hi, Father, my name is Ann. That's all I want to tell you. I have some pills here in my hand, and I don't see a reason to go on living. And the priest, thank God, literally, thank God, was able to talk my mother off the cliff. And she put the pills back in the bottle. God knows what the world would have been like had she not gotten through to that priest. Now, I personally believe that God willed that all of that happened, actively willed for that to be the case. So, but let's just extend this analogy or example a little bit. Had my mother killed herself successfully, the odds are extremely great that I would not be sitting here right now in this apostolate that was begun because of her prayers for me to come back from a sinful life. One little action that, with the exception of very, very few close friends, I've never shared publicly with anybody. That one little hidden action that could have gone either way, at least in theory, it could have gone either way. God knows in his mind what the world would have been like had my mom taken those pills and died, and I would have come home and found her because I was always the first one home because of my school hours versus my dad. My brother was off at Notre Dame by then. And I would have found her. He knows what that world would have been like, what the world would be like. We know from all of your comments and emails and things, just the hundreds, if not thousands of you who, thanks to all of our work here at Church Militant, have found a greater deepening or even conversion to the Catholic faith because of that. Well, that's why when I'm standing in front of crowds on giving talks, whatever, I oftentimes say, none of this would be happening. I wouldn't be standing here if it wasn't for my mom. Well, if it wasn't for my mom being on the phone with that priest, she wouldn't have been alive, and none of this would have happened. But it's a great pondering to consider just how vast God's intellect is, infinite that it is, that there are all kinds of things that never happened that could have, or did happen that were never really going to happen. How much of this is God's active will that he prevents something from happening? Well, God's active will can't override our free will choices, but he does have the advantage, unlike anyone else, any other being, he has the advantage of knowing all of the future, the real future, as well as the possible futures. And I would just suggest this as something for you to consider and meditate on, particularly here during Lent with its emphasis on sacrifice and, even to some degree, pain and suffering. We don't know. God knows. We don't know how our actions might influence for the good at some point in the future, even though at the moment they seem awful. There's no way out. It's dark. It's horrible. All of this. God knows, as I was talking with the crew before we started rolling tape here, God knows what would happen if the 69 Mets would have lost. He knows what would have happened to the world. He knows that if, this guy and this girl didn't meet, 1,800 years ago, that their progeny down the line, would never have been able to, have a child who then became president of the United States. And that was perhaps just a chance meeting very quickly. The mind of God is just a phenomenal thing to meditate on. And then you think this vast infinitude collapses itself into love, personal love for you, for me, for every single individual. That great world of possibilities for God is not just a possibility, but it's the actual reality that he wants you, he wants me in heaven with him for eternity, and has done everything he can in the real and possible worlds to arrange the circumstances so that that is the outcome. The only problem is what we choose. So choose very well. I want to remind you that we are going to make this show available for premium members. We'll run a little bit of it, and then we'll take a break or pause, and you'll have to pick it up. If you're a premium member, you can just keep watching the whole thing through. So if you're not a premium member, coming soon, this will be happening in April with all of our shows here, Christine, Simon's, mine, and some other ones we're going to be rolling out also in the coming weeks and months. Please sign up for a premium subscription. If you get something from these, if they give you a little charge, a little spiritual shot in the arm, as we say, please become a premium member and pay attention, support our work here, and become holier. Hope your Lent is going well, everybody. All right, God love you.